Hi there, Granny Dot here. Nice to have you back again. We'll continue now with page 72 of the book Steinbeck's Ghost. The ride home by Travis, he was riding home after he saw the boy in the window. The ride home was a snap. No traffic, no wind. A great night for a bike ride. And Travis thought that perhaps he'd never ridden his bike any faster. He was racing home, trying to get there before his parents had time to invent new punishments for him. But he was also way too excited to ride any other way. So much had happened in the last few days. The library, Gitano, and yes, that really was Steinbeck's ghost. But he didn't know what to do with it all. He wasn't afraid of what was happening and was pretty sure zombies and ghouls weren't suddenly going to be chasing him down the street. He knew these things were all connected. But how? And why? What did this mean? His brain was an enormous hamster wheel with hundreds of hamsters spinning around and around. So he pedaled to keep up with the hamsters, pedaled and panted, and flew all the way home. He shot off Natividad and was zooming down Veranda, about to glide through the gates of Bella Linda Terrace, when he saw them. On the ridge of the Gabilan foothills closest to Bella Linda Terrace, 3 black silhouettes stood looking over the valley toward the Santa Lucia Mountains, toward Corral de Tierra. The figures were as still as stone, but they were definitely human. No movement at all, just watching. He skidded a bike to the stop. All the not thinking he'd done on the bike ride, all the not thinking he'd pedaled into himself, vanished. He knew who these figures were, and he knew it immediately. There was a Steinbeck story, Flight, where a man was being chased by sheriff's deputies through the Santa Lucia Mountains near Big Sur, and all during the chase, whenever the man looked up, he found 3 black figures standing on ridgetops high above him. The man knew they were not chasing him. They were simply watching him. Travis knew that the figures on the ridge below Fremont Peak were Steinbeck's watchers, and that story, Flight, was in the Long Valley, which he had in his backpack. He gazed up at the watchers. They were not looking at him. They were looking far away, into the west. Then they turned in unison and disappeared from the ridge, as if they'd been waiting for Travis to arrive. Travis knew what he had to do. If he could just get his feet to cooperate, he was going to go home, turn on all the lights, and watch some mindless television until he fell asleep. Maybe even beg his parents for a game box. His parents! He bumped all the way home, and just as he was about to cruise into the driveway, he heard a car honking behind him. Travis tore into the house before his parents could say anything, grabbed the note he'd left for them off the kitchen table, and slammed into the bedroom. The note had said he was at Hill's, and that wouldn't work anymore. He had to think of something else. He was just out riding around Bella Linda Terrace. That would do. His parents believed him, but they weren't happy he'd been out after dark. They gave him the better be more careful lecture. Standing there in the kitchen with them, he really wanted to be angry, but he couldn't. It was a lie, a stupid lie at that, and he had to stick to it. After a late dinner, Travis and his parents watched a silly cop show together, but he couldn't relax, couldn't get everything out of his head. He kept wanting to talk to his parents, tell them everything that had happened. But just like over the weekend, he kept his mouth shut. How did you even begin to tell your parents about ghosts and watchers? So he watched some cop shows, shoot at guys, and drink coffee, and drive recklessly. The TV. Later, in his room, he sat at his desk for a long time. He looked out at Salinas, a pearl string of lights along the highway, and at the barely visible outline of the Santa Lucias, to where the watchers had been watching. He got into bed, cracked open the Long Valley, and turned to the story called Flight. Now we begin chapter 5 on page 76. After school on Friday, Hill and Travis completely scoped out the car wash scheme. Hill was an excellent planner, and between the two of them, they imagined, everything covered. Hill would contact the old Stage Shopping Center, 2 blocks from the entrance to Bella Linda Terrace, and get permission to use the corner of their parking lot at the intersection of Natividad and Boronda. He would arrange to have a banner made and, with his father, figure out a way to raise it. Car wash. Save our library. $5. And the big sun. Travis would collect the other materials, the towels and hoses and soap. He figured his parents would help with this. When they were done planning, they walked around Bella Linda Terrace and hit every house with a flyer. Travis noticed something he'd not seen before. Every house in Bella Linda Terrace had a satellite dish, including his own house, and every dish pointed to the same spot in the sky. The houses looked as if they were scanning the galaxy for news from the mother planet. Travis pointed this out to Hill. Yeah, he said, you know, the more we talk about it, the weirder this place gets. I'm going to blame you, T. You started it. Because of you, I know I live on this really strange planet. Before you, I was perfectly happy here. They agreed, though, that it was better to travel this weird planet together. With every block, Hill and Travis expanded their ideas for the Camazotz video game, imagining the unexpected worlds behind the dull facade of each neighbor's house. Travis and his parents ate at Sheila's again that weekend. Halfway through their burgers and fries, Travis brought up the library closing. He knew he had to be careful. You hear about the library? He asked them. That seemed safe enough. I know, his dad said. It's horrible. I love that place. Do you remember, his mom said, how we used to go there every Saturday? Of course I remember, he said. She talked about the library as if it were an extinct dinosaur. The last time we went to the library was only a few months ago, before we moved. Maybe we could go again, his dad said. That'd be nice. This is so stupid, Travis said. How could they close the library? I mean, it's the library. People need to have free access to all that information. His mom looked at him with really big eyes. That's true, his dad said. But you know, the taxes are already so high. There's just not enough money. But that's not the whole picture, Travis said. The states cut off so much money we used to get from them for things like fire and police and libraries. The state's making us pay for their poor planning. His mom's eyes got a lot smaller then. Travis couldn't see into them. His dad looked at his mom, but she only looked at Travis. Good point, I guess, his dad said. But you have to understand, Travis, this was a bad sign. If his dad used his name and started with, you have to understand, he was obviously going to say something Travis did not want to understand. The world's changing, his dad went on, and there's just not that kind of money anymore. At least not around here. We pay taxes, and they're killing us. I'll miss the library, too. I wish we could save it, but I'm sorry to say, I don't think we can. It's a different world nowadays, Travis. I don't like it either. His dad looked out at Main Street. Travis looked too. The world, at least here in Old Town, looked pretty much the same. But we have to do something, Travis said. He felt himself rising up in his chair. I mean, we have to try. We love the library. Well, yes, we do. I know that. His dad turned to him. But what? What can we do? We can have a car wash. Travis's mom and dad looked at each other, a weird surprise on their faces, as if Travis had just sprouted ears and a tail. Okay, they cooed. Travis spelled it out for them. The car wash plan. He made sure they knew it wasn't only about the money, but publicity too. Instantly, his dad got into it, and Travis felt the old spark he used to see in his dad before the new job. On one of the restaurant's paper placemats, they sketched out everything. She, his dad called, and Sheila, that's what he called her. She, the owner and his dad's old boss, came out from behind the long wooden bar. Travis had always loved the bar here, not just for the cherries and olives his dad used to give him, but because it looked old enough to belong in a Wild West saloon. What's up, Don, Lindsay, and Travis, my handsome man? You look like you need a favor. Don't ask for your job back, though. I got enough trouble. She put a glass of olives and cherries in front of Travis. Sheila was pretty and funny and smart, and she always treated Travis like a friend. Towels, his dad said. We need lots of towels. Sheila agreed to rent more towels from her supplier. The bar used about 300 towels a week. His dad offered to pay, but Sheila refused. It was a noble cause, she said. She loved the library also. While Travis and his dad were working on the car wash plan, his mom grew quieter and quieter and sat back with her arms folded. She was onto him, Travis knew. She was going to sit back and wait until Travis slipped up. Then she'd pounce. Travis clearly knew way too much about the library. Who else is going to help with car wash? His dad asked. His mom leaned forward, her arms still crossed. He was the bird in the bird bath. She was the cat. He was doomed. So he gave up. The committee, he said. The Save Our Library Committee. He pulled a folded flyer from his back pocket and handed it to his mom. So, she said, tell me about this committee. There was a tiny smile hiding in her face. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad. His parents were pretty mad, though, about him riding his bike to the library, sure, but mostly mad that he hadn't told them. He had lied to them, and he knew it, and they knew it. Still, during the excruciatingly long and quiet drive home, they didn't go ballistic. The word punishment had yet to surface. They were being calm, angry but calm. So Travis played it the same way. He wanted to yell at them, yell that they had stranded him on Camazotz and it wasn't fair, and he was bored out of his gourd, and at least they got to go to work, and the library was something he cared about, but they wouldn't know about that, would they? They were always at work. The words rose up in him, but he didn't let them out. He would let his parents be right. They were right on one level, and he would not insist on his being right. Oh, he was right too. He had played this game before, waiting, and it felt good to be bigger than his anger. He let his parents do most of the talking. At home, around the dining room table, the deal was made. His parents knew the library was important to him, and they were beginning to see that they had to give him more freedom also. So he could ride his bike to the library when it was daylight. By daylight, they meant the sun was still visible, and when it wasn't raining. If it was raining, he had to take the bus. But coming back, especially in the dark, yes, in the evening too, was another thing. He would have to get a ride back with Hill's mom, or maybe Miss Babb, or one of the other committee members. Or he could wait for his parents to come get him. Agreed? Deal. Pinky swears all around. Not bad, Travis thought. Not bad at all. The next meeting of the Save Our Library Committee was held in a larger conference room, the Ricketts Room, named for Doc Ricketts, Steinbeck's best friend. This room was more like a theater, all chairs and no long table, but still too small for the turnout that night. Miss Babb stood at a lectern, and every speaker had to stand to be heard. The original committee members had brought friends, and some new members came because of the flyers. There were 37 altogether. Travis drove in with Hill and his mom to go over the car wash with them and to make his parents happy. Each of the 5 subcommittee gave their reports and doled out responsibilities to new volunteers. Over the coming weekend, there would be a bake sale in front of the Mayak Cinema, a used book sale in front of the library, a tamale sale in the Alisal neighborhood, and an information table in front of the National Steinbeck Center for out-of-town visitors. And the car wash. 9 people, including Miss Babb, signed up to help with the car wash. Travis signed up for a new subcommittee, the mailing committee, which would stuff envelopes and mail out flyers to every address in Salinas, and to magazines, newspapers, and libraries and library associations around the world. Miss Babb had never looked so excited. She seemed to be glowing. At the end of the meeting, she hugged Travis and thanked him about 100 times. Travis had Hill's mom drive past the old house on Riker Street, said he wanted Hill to see it. But honestly, it was because he knew this route would take them past the Steinbeck house. They were going pretty fast down Central, but Travis saw, if only briefly, that the light was on and the dark shape of the rider sat in the window. Steinbeck's ghost. It had to be. The day was ideal for a car wash. It was the 1st of October, and Indian summer was hanging on, bright and crisp and dry. The sky was a smooth blue plate. Hill's father, a round, bald man with tattoos up and down his arms, helped put up the banner. He'd planted 2 tetherball poles in old car tires he'd filled with concrete, and the 3 of them stretched the banner across the shopping center's main corner. The banner was professionally made. It was huge, and no one could miss it. The sun design, all yellow and smiling and reading an open book, made Travis happy just looking at it. Theodore, the man in the important-looking suit, had done a great job. The car wash was all set up by 10, but by 10:30, they hadn't washed a single car. Travis kept stacking and restacking the towels, checking the soapy water. Then Hill, leave it to Hill, had an idea. Hill's father pulled his enormous gold truck into the car wash's orange-coned lane, and Travis began washing it. Hill stood on the sidewalk close to the stoplights and did a crazy dance, pointing all the while to the banner. Once he even dropped to his knees, his hands clasped, a frightful beggar. A minute later, the first car pulled in. When the first committee members arrived, Jack Ray and Theodore, both in shorts and t-shirts, 7 cars were waiting in line. The line never ended. All day long, the cars kept coming, and so did the volunteers. A circus, Travis thought, a real riot. The cars got washed and dry, vacuumed for $2 extra, but not without a lot of fun. It was Miss Bab who started the water fights. Late in the afternoon, she came up to Travis, who was taking a break, and asked him if he was hot and tired and needed some refreshment. When he said, "Oh, yeah," she lifted one of the hoses and let him have it full blast right in the chest. Travis shook his hands and looked down at his shirt. Then slowly, very slowly, excuse me, that's actually probably what Travis did. He leaned over, picked a soapy rag out of a bucket, and threw it right at Miss Bab. Oh, bullseye. At that moment, Travis felt water stinging him from behind. It was his dad, brandishing one of the other hoses, and Travis ran after him with fistfuls of soapy rags. Within minutes, every volunteer and several customers were drenched and bubbly. All day long there was music and food and talk, 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 and laughter. They took turns passing out flyers in front of the Safeway and the Colonel Foxworthy's Coffee Emporium and the Mango Tango Juice Bar. Everyone they talked to seemed concerned about the library, almost angry. More than 500 flyers were passed out. Near the end of the day, Travis was sitting alone under the banner, tired and wet, when he realized that it was still noisy at the car wash. The talking wouldn't stop. Hill's dad and Travis's mom stood talking with Miss Babb, and everyone's hands were flying everywhere, and Travis knew they were talking about the library. Hill and Jack Ray were looking at one of the flyers and pointing to it, obviously coming up with better information and designs for a new one. When he'd first heard about the library closing, Travis had felt completely alone. Now he knew he was part of something huge, and he figured that, with everyone working together, the library might stand a chance of winning. He played soccer when he was in third and fourth grade, and the coaches were always talking about teamwork. For the first time, he felt like he knew what a team really was. Each person working toward the same goal. The last car was dried and buffed a little after 6. An enormous moon, bursting orange, rose from behind the lime quarry against the mountains. When they counted the money in the cigar box and added the money from the tip jar, Travis's idea, it came to $578.44. That was a long way from $8 million, but it hardly seemed to matter. After the car wash, Travis and his parents went to Hill's house for pizza with his family. It was the first time the two families had gotten together, and the talking just continued about everything under the sun. It almost felt, Travis thought, like the old days. And on Sunday, both families hung out at the pool, wet again, a great day made a little bigger by the glow of the car wash's success. But when dinner was over on Sunday and Travis went up to his room to catch up on homework, he was really behind, and suddenly all the excitement was gone. His room was just his room, nothing more. He walked around it and looked at all his stuff as if he were seeing it for the first time. His room and his life looked absolutely normal to him, and that's what was weird about it. He had continued to live his normal life, going to school, watching TV, listening to music, but he had this other life now, and it felt more important than his normal life. Chemizats, the library, The books, Gitano, Steinbeck's ghost, felt like his real life now. Hill was somewhere in the middle, sometimes a part of his normal life, and sometimes a part of his real life. Travis didn't know yet where Hill would wind up. Yes, those were the right words. Normal and real. They could have meant the same thing, those words. But there was a big difference. Travis felt that normal was the everyday life, the dum-de-dum-dum kind of life, the walking down the street but not paying too much attention, the life the whole world lived. The real life was the wide awake, eyes open, noticing every rock and every shift of wind life, the life each person lived when they were most alive. In his Sunday quiet bedroom, Travis stood suspended for a moment between his normal life and his real life. Which one should he follow? He didn't have a choice, really. He'd have to follow both lives, live in both worlds. He looked around his room. Yes, his normal life was still there. There was his computer. There was his CD player, his basketball. He would wake up in the morning and his normal life would continue. He looked at the stacks of books on his desk. These were his new life, his real life. A wrinkle in time led him to the library, which led him to Corral de Tierra, which led him to the pastures of heaven, which led him to the long valley. And these books had led him to the other mysteries that surrounded him. Gitano and the Watchers, and Steinbeck's ghost. Those led him deeper into a world he'd never suspected. Books could do that to you. When you read, the world really does change. He understood this now. You saw parts of the world you never knew existed. Books were in the world. The world was in books. He sat at his desk and he sat at his desk and stared out at the Santa Lucias in the west. Tomorrow he would resume his normal life. Tonight he would read. He flipped through his library copy of The Pastures of Heaven, reading the first paragraph of each story to remind him of what happened in it. Travis didn't understand everything that happened in The Pastures of Heaven, but he knew enough. There was something dark in these stories, some kind of curse. Every family that moved into the corral expected to find paradise, but they never found it, and often their lives were ruined. They lost their money and their farms, their honor, sometimes their lives. They had all wished too hard for a perfect world. He couldn't help but think of Bella Linda Terrace. and he wondered if his parents had made the same mistake. When he looked out the window at the Santa Lucias, he didn't only see the silhouette of the mountains, he saw into the past, saw all the people who had ever lived in the corral and all the stories about them. He also saw more deeply into his own world, his own life. After a while, he got into bed and opened The Long Valley. He'd read Flight a few days before, and there he found the watchers he'd seen on the ridge behind his house. Tonight he started The Red Pony, the novella in the back of The Long Valley. It was all he could do to keep from crying when Jody's full gabilan died, even though he knew that part was coming. He continued to the second section of The Red Pony, the great mountains, and found it was all new to him. He'd forgotten this part about Jody and the mountains that obsessed him, which Travis now knew were the Santa Lucias. Jody was always looking off toward these mountains. The same view Travis had from his bedroom window. Then the book almost leaped out of Travis's hands when an old stranger arrived on Jody's father's ranch. The stranger was an old paisano, half Mexican and half Indian, and he claimed that he had once worked on the ranch. The first thing the old paisano said in the story was, "I am Gitano, and I have come back." Travis dug himself deeper under the covers. He kept reading. In The Red Pony, Gitano spent much of his time looking at the great mountains, the Santa Lucias. When Jody asked him if he'd ever been there, Gitano told him that, yes, he had been there once, but it was a long time ago, when he was a child. Had he ever been back? Jody wanted to know. No. What had he seen there in the great mountains? Gitano refused to talk about what he had seen. A noise broke Travis's reading. But from where? Travis sat up, looked around the room. The noise, whatever it was, a snapping twig, a door clicking shut, could have come from anywhere. In the fresh silence, Travis heard the echo of the noise. It might have come from the front yard or from inside the house. The book. He floated through the house. Not a whit of noise, not even his father's incredibly loud snoring. In the memory of the echo of it, called him outside. He put on shorts and sandals, went down to the garage, and slipped out the side gate on his bike. Like most kids, Travis knew how to sneak around at night undetected. The houses of Bella Linda Terrace were bone white in the glow of the orange streetlights and the white cloud of almost full moonlight. Tonight, every house seemed more like its neighbor than even before. He shot through the front gate of Bella Linda Terrace and crossed Baronda Road. He pulled up in front of the barbed wire fence that bordered the neighboring foothills. He stared into the world in the night. He wanted to move past the fence, but he couldn't. Were the watchers at the top of the ridge again? He couldn't tell. Something was up there, shapes moving across the blue-green hills. He turned to go home. There was Bella Linda Terrace, Camazotz waiting for him.
Stop. Something happened.
He had a sudden thought. Did the high stone wall around Bella Linda Terrace keep people out or keep people in? It was hard to know. Everything looked different under the night lights.